The Lincoln Cathedral directly opposite Lincoln Castle is known for its remarkable architecture and rich history, including the two eyes of the church, as one medieval writer described. But was God watching when Lucy Buxton murdered her 5-month-old illegitimate baby? Lincoln Castle is the home to many notable sites, including the women's ward of the castle jail. This ward was home to many criminals, including Lucy Buxton, who was sentenced to execution here after poisoning her baby. Why did she do it? The women's ward was notably different to the men's ward. Although both male and female prisoners had to complete daily chores, the women usually had to do extra chores compared to the men, such as washing clothes. They also got less food, as shown on the poster featured on the walls within their cells. But the fact they got food at all, as well as a place to sleep, might be what drove Lucy Buxton to commit the murder. Lucy Buxton was poor, and was struggling to survive on the streets, and despite the tragedy of her crime, many came to her aid. In 1868, a petition was made in support of Lucy. It was signed by most of her local parish and all 12 of the jurists that found her guilty. It was sent to the judge, pleading for clemency. In addition, a local cleric wrote into the local newspaper asking for all Christians to pray for her. Eventually, her sentence was commuted to life in prison. People were beginning to suspect that there was something terribly wrong. Not with the young women like Lucy, but with the society that would drive her to commit such a terrible crime. How bad does it have to get to the point where you murder your child in order to find food and shelter? I'm sure there's more to it, more personal reasons that we haven't uncovered yet that drove her to that point, but it really makes you think. Perhaps I judged Lucy Buxton too harshly. As bad as her crime appears to be on the surface, it certainly seems as though she did it for her own survival. But in order to truly form an opinion, I need to compare her crime and punishment to others of that time period. Cobb Hall was the location of the 38 hangings of condemned prisoners between 1817 and 1859, and of those 38, just 3 of those prisoners were women. But how do their crimes compare to that of Lucy Buxton? 28-year-old Elizabeth Whiting was the first to be hanged on the New Drop Gallows here on Saturday the 15th of March 1817 for the murder of her illegitimate child. Elizabeth Warriner was the next to die when she was hanged on Saturday the 26th of July of the same year, having been convicted for the murder of her 11-year-old stepson, whom she poisoned with arsenic. And finally, 31-year-old Eliza Joyce was hanged here on Friday the 2nd of August 1844 for the murder of her 15-year-old stepson, also by arsenic poisoning. As this journey of discovery comes to a close, I begin to reflect on what I've learned so far. Perhaps I did judge Lucy Buxton too harshly. Perhaps she wasn't evil. It's fact that all those other women were hanged for a very similar crime, and yet Lucy was given life in prison rather than execution. It certainly does make you think, was she evil, or did society simply fail her? My journey here may be nearing its end, but before I leave, I have one more story to tell.